most of world global societies have a dualistic element in which one gender is elevated above the other, and this is something I don't like. See, I look at the total picture. I know that there are some instances where women are consider themselves above men, but most of the time it's the other way around. But I look at the whole situation, so I use that term. That I use duality to describe this, and the world uses a term called misogyny, which is the hatred or dislike of women or girls. It can be, it can include sexual discrimination, denigration of women, violence against women, sexual objectification, seeing women as sex objects only, and But this, to me, is not the complete problem, because I don't think I know that there's the same way of thinking coming from women too. And it's not necessarily a reaction to this. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. And misogyny is probably also, well, I'm sure it is, also a reaction. Huh? So this is that's why I don't use the term misogyny, because misogyny is men hating women, basically. But for me, that's only addressing part of the problem. Addressing? Did I say addressing? I meant that's only addressing part of the problem. But I think it's the bigger problem. The fact that men oppress women, I think that is the greater problem. I can agree to that. But you cannot deny that it's the other way around in some instances too. Yeah. So for me, I look at everything. So that's why I don't use terms like misogyny. I use, genders oppressing each other. And feminism, to me, is not completely covering the whole picture. For me, feminism is, and I know this to be true. Yeah, that to me, feminism is another duality. And this is not going to lead to healthy things. It could lead to opening people's eyes. That's nice if it can do that. But there are, just like any religion and philosophy and political ideology, there are people who will go extreme. So there are a lot of feminists that are extreme. In their beliefs and their communication against men and anyone else who disagrees with them. And it seems like they're that same mindset of racists who hate people just because of who they are. I don't take the time to get to know people. It's, there's a man, he's evil. He's a fucker. No pun intended, yeah? And this is, to me, that's a frequency where the communication is revealing the closed-mindedness of the communicator. Yeah? It's showing that the person is not able to comprehend the fullness of reality. So here we have a duality. And when somebody communicates like that, that's not going to lead to any kind of emotional or spiritual or mental development, appreciation, learning. It's not going to lead to anything. It's only going to lead to people, butting heads against one another. And that's only going to make the situation worse. So I don't use the term misogyny. Yeah? And it's not because I'm against it. The reason why I don't use the term is because, to me, if you just focus on misogyny, what this is doing is giving leeway and license, for women to do their own form. And that's not going to help. That's not going to bring people together. They don't have to agree, but you can come together. You can agree to disagree and still have peace. But just using the term misogyny alone, to me, I think is actually contributing to the problem, because it fires up females to, a lot of them are going to become closed-minded. They're just going to be man-haters, regardless. That is duality. That's still contributing to the problem. That is not helping. And like I said, I am total agreement in that most of the problems with gender discrimination is coming from men. I totally agree with that. But it's also coming from women, and that we cannot deny. And if you only use terms like misogyny, you are denying this other small part. And a small, overlooked virus could get out of hand. So you have to look at the whole situation. That's what holistic means. When you look at something, you look at a problem or whatever, a problem of society or whatever kind of problem, you have to examine it from as many perspectives as you can. And this way, you will see the problem as clearly as possible. And yes, you will see that most of the problem is coming from men. But there are also women contributing to this problem. You cannot overlook that. Because if you do, that's like overlooking a little, washer seal on the shuttle. And then, something happens to it. It cracks or melts or whatever. Next thing you know, the shuttle is blowing up. The space shuttle. That's what happened in 1986. What was it called? Columbia? Or was it Destiny? What I can't remember which one it was called. The space shuttle that went up in, what was it, January? Somewhere in 1986. And, I was watching this, because the reason I was watching this was because there was a teacher on board. Yeah, they took a teacher up and was the 3 people that were not really astronauts, but they took astronaut training, so they were going to conduct experiments up there with the help of real astronauts. And I thought, wow, that's so exciting. And the fact that this teacher was a woman, because usually astronauts are mostly men. And I thought, this is good. This is really good. And so I got up, was watching that, and holy crap, that just shocked the hell out of me. So it just I was like speechless. I was like, no way. What just happened here? Yeah, and when the investigation was done, examining all the parts that came crashing into the ocean, collecting them all, putting them in some hangar, and examining everything, they realized it was a little sealant thing, kind of like a rubber washer, or I don't know if it was rubber, but it was a little circular thing that goes around, I think where the CO2 goes through or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was a really small thing. And that small thing cracked. And when that cracked, whatever was going through there hit the flames from, the exhaust there, and that was the bomb. Yeah, it made a bomb. Turned into a bomb. That's what happened. See, this is the kind of thing that can happen when you overlook something. When you look at a problem, you've got to try your best, even bring in other people who you trust to look at the situation, to see, where is this, What happened here? Let's look at this. How do we approach this problem? What can you see? And when you're talking about gender oppression, you will see that most of it is caused by men. It's coming from men. And how do they get this way? You look at that, but then you got to keep looking, and you got to say, wait a minute. What is the possibility? Why is it that it's mostly men? You have to ask all kinds of questions. That means you have to think. Is there a possibility that women could be this way too? Because not everything is alike. Or just because one thing is this way, that doesn't mean it's whatever other part is going to be that way. So you have to look at, okay, well, let's see what's going on in the female department in this. What's happening there? And then you will see that not all women are totally extreme in this feminism, in the extreme form of feminism, and that you will see that the extreme form is actually nurturing the problem. The extreme form of feminism is actually nurturing and contributing to this problem of misogyny, or what I would prefer to say, gender oppression. Yeah? So this is why I don't use the word misogyny, because to me it's overlooking a problem, a second problem that is small, but it is there, and if left untreated, it can kill the whole situation. Yeah? So you cannot overlook little tiny things. You have to examine it and see what's the thinking process behind this group of people here. And when you examine extreme forms of feminism, you will see that it has the same dualistic elements that men have. I guess you could say misogynists. Yeah? So, we look at, how does this come about? And like I said, I don't use the term misogyny. I use the term duality, because this applies to both men and women. That there could be, contributing problems on both sides. Because, see, not all of something in a group is the same. Not all men are the same. Not all men have misogynistic tendencies. Not all women are extreme feminists. Yeah? So not everybody's the same. That's the one thing you have to recognize right away. Because as soon as you say, well, that's just how men are, then we've lost you. We've lost you from the intelligent circle here. You just fell out of comprehension. Now your energy and your communication is starting to contribute to this problem. The virus is alive. Yeah? So you have to realize that. Number one, not everybody's the same in whatever group you're looking at. Not all white people are bad. Not all Indians are good. Yeah? It's how a person thinks. Because reality begins within. Yeah? So it's the process that's going on inside a person that determines how that person is. What does he want to do? Things like that. That's where it all begins. So, if you can develop a society that can be like that can be founded on that, then you're heading for a pretty good world. But look around us. It's not that way. So that means, why? That means why? That means, I was going to say two things here that got combined in one sentence. That means something is keeping us away from our communicating from within ourselves. What is keeping us away from ourselves? What is blocking us from our inner self? What could do that? And how can it do that? How does it do that? Yeah? And those are some of the things I discussed already at the beginning of the show. Yeah, I said some of this yesterday too. When an idea develops, of how can we control society and get them to do our will? Well, let's create a system of beliefs where, if you follow these beliefs, you're going to get a reward. Well, what can that reward be? Well, let's say it's riches beyond measure, but only in a different state of existence. So, what can that state of existence be? Maybe it could be, some super fantastic being that has created some super fantastic existence where everything is perfect, everything is happy, everything is light, everything is only good, and everyone lives in mansions. Everyone is just full of everything good. And if you don't accept these beliefs, then you are sentenced to an eternal punishment, an eternal damnation. You are going to be in hell for all eternity. Now, how can we get the people to believe this? Well, let's ask them who in their family has recently died. Because the chances are they still are missing them and they're very emotional, and that's where we can get them, when they're in that emotion. So we say so the person says, okay, yeah, my mother just died, and so then, now these oppressors can say, okay, according to the word of our Supreme Being, is that your mother is in a better place, and she's in this world. It's perfect, and she is there waiting for you. And all you have to do is live in this way that we're teaching, and you will be with her again one day soon. She wants you to be with her. She wants you, to be with her for all eternity. And to do that, you have to follow our rules to get there. Otherwise, you will never see her again after you die. So they're setting up, scare technique. And then, after that comes the, to make sure that you stay in that way of thinking. They have to keep you in an emotional state. They have to keep you living in an emotion. And to do that, you have to meet often, at least once a week. Do some kind of physical activity to show that you are still a follower, to show that you are still into this, that you are, that you believe this, you support this, and that's how they keep you in, keeping you in that emotion. And Lakota Star Knowledge says that I said it at the beginning of the show, when you take care of yourself, a part of that process includes learning from your difficulties to enjoy your blessings. And your difficulties can be transformed into blessings when you learn from them and make the best of them. And they become, you receive knowledge, wisdom, peace, and these are blessings. And during that process, the emotions that were with the difficulty leave. And as I said before, they are replaced with peace. This means you are not supposed to live in the emotion. The emotion is part of the learning process to achieving, maintaining, and nurturing peace. Not happiness, peace. Happiness is also part of an experience. Yeah? And that it's okay to feel that. To enjoy the blessings that come to you. Sit back and enjoy it. Regardless of how it happened. It is a blessing. Until the next experience comes. Whatever that is. Who knows? Maybe it's another blessing. You never know. And even if it's a difficulty, that's okay. You know that it's a blessing waiting to happen. You just have to do something. You have to learn from it. You have to make the best out of it. But see, this is showing you that emotions are constantly in motion, that you will feel them again. But in duality, they want you to stay in a certain emotion, to trap you, to get you to trap yourself. And then when this happens, you cannot develop emotionally, which means you cannot develop spiritually. So remember in Lakota Star Knowledge, when you learn from your experiences, remember what I said? I said this several times now, that when you're learning from difficulties, the emotions that come from that, they leave. And then it's replaced with peace. Yeah, it is replaced with peace. And the peace that you already had grows. And you develop spiritually and emotionally. But in duality, you're stuck in the emotion and you do not develop spiritually or emotionally. Yeah? So that's what the religion will do. Keep you drunk in an emotion by whatever means possible. And what it's doing is it's deceiving you. Yeah? It's enslaving you. Because you're missing so many opportunities. You're missing a lot of what nature has right in front of you. But when you live in an emotion, you don't see the fullness of reality. So there's blessings right in front of you, but you don't see it because the emotion that you're forcing yourself to stay in is blocking it out. So in other words, you're keeping it away all by yourself by choosing to be this way, which is the reason why they're closed-minded. They don't see the fullness of it. And when you try to explain it to them, they just don't get it. They think you're the one who's crazy. See, that's what happens when you live in the emotion. That's what religion will do. Now, it's not just religion. Hate groups do the exact same thing. Terrorist group, racist groups, they do the same thing. But this one, they keep you in the emotion of anger. But it's the same process. And the result is the same as with religions. You end up closed-minded. You don't see the fullness of reality. And when the answer is right in front of you, you can't even comprehend it. So you don't see it. Feminism is in the same frequency. The same thing happens there. Yeah? So these people who hate women, it's the same thing. It's all the same frequency. It's duality. This is why I said I don't use the term misogyny. Misogyny is a part of it. But the broader, more grand term is duality. This is the problem. It's the thinking process behind it. That's where it all starts. Reality begins within. That's what Lakota Star Knowledge teaches. And what duality is doing is keeping you away from your inner world. from your sacred center. And then all these problems develop. People oppressing one another because they're a different religion or a different skin color or a different gender. Or a different language. As in America, you have oppression happening between a lot of Mexicans and a lot of Indians. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they look the same. Same skin color. But they're oppressing each other. Even among American Indians, there is oppression. We're not all at peace with one another. Even within the same tribe, there's oppression. Yeah? And so it's all, where's the root? The root is that there is no root. That's the problem. See, duality keeps you away from yourself. It keeps you from nurturing your roots, which you were born with. But when you are living under a dualistic way of thinking, then you are losing what you were born with. Yeah? You are slowly losing it, and you sink deeper and deeper and deeper, and what you were born with eventually erodes away so that you have nothing, and then you're ganashkia. You're crazy. Truly crazy. There's nothing. No foundation inside of you. Just empty. Your heart is sick. Your soul is sick. Your mind is weak. And eventually, your body will cease to exist. These are the 4 parts of the self. See? If you don't nurture all 4 parts, you will die sooner than you could have, than you would. Yeah, you will die sooner. So, you can develop, programs all you want, but if those programs do not address duality, the problem will remain. It'll come out in a different form. It'll come out covertly, but it will still be there. You have to go to the very, very root cause, and that is how we think, how we communicate. We can't just do it from the heart. We have to do it with the heart and with the mind together. One would not, if you only use one or the other, you will remain in duality. That's a guarantee. Communicating only from the heart means you're stuck in an emotion. Communicating from the mind, same thing. You're stuck. Yeah? So you have to use them both together. And you have to go deep, deep within yourself and find how does a person become dualistic. In the Western modern world, what we have around us are institutions that were created by dualistic thought to keep people away from themselves, to keep people in duality. So somebody might say, well, okay, we need to create an institution that's opposite of that. That's not good enough. If this new institution that you want to create addresses going to your sacred center, then you have something here. But it cannot be a system of beliefs. It has to be you going into yourself. It has to be you establishing peace within yourself. Because that's where the root of everything is. That's where reality begins. That's what Lakota Star Knowledge teaches. Yeah. So this is where you go to address this problem, because it's getting worse. It is really, really getting bad. As technology increases exponentially, so is this duality. It's reflecting technology, the development of technology. Now, technology is not evil, but if you are dualistic, do you see what I mean? You use that technology to fuel your duality, and therefore, as long as technology is developing at an exponential rate, that means your duality does too, because you're involving it in dualistic ways. But if you're a healthy person and you follow Lakota Star Knowledge or Lakota Star Knowledge-like concepts, you can use technology in a healthy way to influence others. Hence this show. Yeah? And believe me, this show, it originated from a very dualistic and misogynistic root. Yeah? One of my students was attacked online. She was bullied online by Indians. Well, I don't really think they're Indians. Some of them are. She's from Germany, and she was bullied by a fellow German lady. My friend is from former West Germany, and the girl that bullied her was from former East Germany. And because of the way East Germany was back then, they're closed off to the world. There's a lot of closed-minded kind of thinking, and not everybody's this way, but the tendency is stronger there. Yeah. So my friend is part ethnic. She's not one of her parents is a white German, and the other one comes from one of the Latin countries. So she's brown. Yeah. So all these people attacked her because of something she said. And what she said was the truth. What she said was, when you all you do is complain about America and you don't do anything to better your own life, but just complain about America and say how much you hate white people. For one thing, you're a racist, because not all white people are the same, and not all Indians are the same. Yeah? But when you think this way, you're a slave to duality. You are owned by your oppressor, meaning you are owned by America. As long as you talk like that, you're talking like a victim. She was correct. And all these people, they threatened her. They threatened to kill her. They threatened to tear her body up in pieces and hide them in different parts of the world. Really, I have the photos of this Facebook chat post. I mean, it really makes you sick when you read it. You feel the hatred coming from these people. Yeah, and this guy that started this, he had a blog talk radio show. And so I went to listen to it, and I couldn't believe how racist it was. He's a musician. He has a song called "White People Go Home" that totally, totally violates Lakota virtues to talk like that. You never talk like that, because there's a healthier way to deal with unhealthy people. And I really thought it was ridiculous, because this Indian guy with this other radio show, he's married to a lady from Austria. She's white. How come he's saying he hates white people when his wife is white? And not only that, he has a child with this lady. So his own child is part white. So does that mean he hates the white part of him? How can you do that? How can you hate your own child just because they're part white? And why did he marry a white lady from Austria if he hates all white people? I hate all white people for everything they done to my people. You bitches around like that. And he really attacked he bullied my good friend online. And so we were talking about this, and we thought, You know, when people find that guy's show, they're gonna, they're just gonna be getting bad medicine from him, bad energy, and they might think all Indians are this way. We should show the world that there are healthy Indians out there, and so this is how the show came. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about having a show, but I thought, there is so much unhealthiness out there that I figured, hey, I'm gonna put something healthy out there, and it's up to people if they want to listen or not. And if they want to, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. I'm not trying to prove anybody or anything. I just want to present a message which is founded upon Lakota Star Knowledge concepts. That means it's an ancestral voice. And that's how this show came. Yeah? So that's the fast version of this story. But anyway, so this is one way of dealing with that. Yeah, to show how this kind of thinking developed, to show what it leads to and how come the world is in the way it is today. The condition of the world today is because of duality. So how do you deal with that? Well, you do what I do. Have a radio show. Hey. No. You find out the root, and then you deal with it from that. Yeah, you go to the root and then you start nurturing it back to health. That's how you fix our society. So let's do that. As I said earlier, as technology increases exponentially, so does everything that deals with it, and that includes humans. Yeah, since it's our technology and it's affecting everybody, it's also affecting nature. It's affecting all Wamakashka, the Hupahu, Hunumpa, the Hutopa, and Takushka, Oyateki are all being affected. Everything is being affected. It's not just the oil companies that are polluting the ground. It's not just the chemical factories polluting the air and the water. It's also humans who think in a dualistic way, who are doing just as much damage as all these companies that are polluting everything. Yeah, when you're dualistic, you are doing just the same kind of pollution because you're messing people up. Yeah, you're sending out a lot of unhealthy energy, and when you're using technology along with that, that problem gets worse exponentially the more you remain in your dualistic communication. Yeah, and the way technology is developing, it's given a lot of people the outlet to say anything they want because they're sitting behind a computer screen or they're sitting someplace with a smartphone, and they could be thousands of miles away from whatever situation is happening, and they can say anything they want, not giving a damn if it offends others or not. Total lack of responsibility. Yeah, lack of respect, lack of everything, lack of intelligence. Just addressing it as misogyny, I think, is just addressing part of the problem. And anytime you address just part of the problem, it's not really going to fix anything. And whatever relief comes, it's only going to be temporary. So to really deal with this, we have to go to the root. And the root it's not just men only. Most of it is. I'll grant you that. Yeah, most of it is coming from men. But there are some women that have the same process too, and if that is left unchecked, yeah, you see what I mean? It could be a virus that goes out of hand in a different direction. So we got to look at the whole situation. When you're looking at anything, you always have to do that. There, you have to look at the entire situation and not just one part. You have to look at the whole thing and then see where everything needs to be adjusted. Yeah, because there might be more than one area. Then you take the necessary steps. Yeah, to making those adjustments. But first, you got to identify the whole thing. So I know some people might call that nitpicking, but I call that being sensible. Yeah. Um, yes, you look at this world today, this modern civilized world, and you will see that just about everything puts women as less than, women as objects to be used, women as submissive, women as weaker, that no matter how educated the woman is, she should never get the same paycheck as her male counterpart. All this is written into the way we are raised. Yeah? And I think this is we're all affected by this. So as soon as we encounter a woman who is really powerful, is a powerful person, right away we get kind of like, oh geez, she's a bitch. Just because we can't handle her individuality, we can't handle her power, we say, oh, she's a bitch, goddamn her anyway, and we're afraid of those things that we cannot control. That is coming from duality. The reason why men are this way is because of duality. They are taught in their foundation that men are above nature, that men are above everything, including women. And everything is founded upon that. And then we create this system of belief saying that, happy as, oh no, how does it go? It's in King James. Somewhere in Ezekiel or Isaiah or one of those chapters, books, it says something like, blessed is he who hath many arrows in his sheath or quiver. One of the two. I think it says quiver. Anyway, it's symbolic language. A lot of these guys spoke in high symbolism. And of course this is translated into English, so there's the lost translation already there. But what this is saying is that when according to their supreme being, that when a man is able to cause a woman to bring forth as many children as possible, that this man is seen as more blessed than a man who has no wife and no child. So when you look at this, it's already saying that the woman is only a servant, that her only purpose is to be used to raise children, to have children, to run the household, keep everything clean and fed and so forth. But that's her lot in life. And as long as all this has happened, then the man is more blessed because of this. He has better chances of getting into heaven. So it's really saying he's got to use a woman to get to heaven, to have as many kids as possible, because this is bringing new believers to this religion. So when you look at the whole thing, it's the man rising above everything. Now, as soon as somebody, throws a wrench into this contraption, then things go wrong. It's like, hey, wait a minute here. Yeah, there's something wrong, he says. There's something wrong, and it's not me. So it's something here. Maybe it's the wife. Maybe there's something wrong with her. Maybe there's something wrong with my daughters, because obviously girls are deficient, and only boys are good because he used to be a boy. Do you see what this whole way of thinking from this belief system is putting men above everything? And lots of times, women are little girls, they see this happening and this is what they learn, and they realize that this is to not rock the boat. That as soon as the daughter starts showing her, individuality and her potential, the father reacts by, in such a way as to put her down, even if it's gently. The fact is she's still being put down. So when you have an entire community this way, then what do? You think that this must be the way the world is. So lots of girls accept it, and they grow up this way. Or they just keep it to themselves. They suppress it. And that's as a result of what the man is doing. That is the kind of thing that where it sprouts from. But like I said, you got to go even beneath that. And that's the duality. That's where it comes into picture. So as long as men are creating the gospels and the religious belief systems and the priesthoods and the churches, the laws and the teaching and all this, as long as that's happening, the mindset's going to be that this is what men are supposed to do. And if a woman does that, well, she can't get paid the same amount as a man does. So it just keeps branching out more and more and more and more, yeah, throughout the history of Western civilization. This kind of thing is happening. And all that is coming from a dualistic concept. Now we develop technology, and we start finding ways to continue to keeping women in their place. Putting them and keeping them in their place. Next thing you know, you have a company out of Scotland called, what is it called, Rockstar, and they have this video game called Grand Theft Audio. I don't know what version it is in. I saw footage of the Grand Theft Auto 5, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Holy crap! This video game it takes place in the incredibly corrupt version of Los Angeles. Now I know Los Angeles is not a city of angels. I know that, but this exaggerates it even more. And the whole game is about having sex with prostitutes, and then find either how does that go again? Either shooting or killing or beating up the prostitute to get your money back. This is part of the game, and it is really graphic. And one clip I saw was that they're sitting in a car, and this girl is giving this guy a blowjob, and then of course he pays her, and then after she gets out of the car, he pretends to drive off, and he follows her. He comes up from behind her and hits her in the head with the iron bar and gets his money back. And the violence is extreme. And I've seen other clips of where the woman is beaten up and gas is thrown on her, and then from a distance he lights a fire and then watches her burn up while she's knocked out, while she's unconscious. And the interviewer was talking to some of these gamers, and he was saying, he says, I play this for the game. He says, nobody's really going to go out there and actually do this. It's just a game, he said. I disagree. What you see does influence you. Yeah, what you see does influence you. I know somebody who has a phobia of buttons by themselves, yeah? This is a girl that, she has shirts that have buttons, pants that have buttons. That's no problem. But to see a button by itself on the table just gives her the heebie-jeebie creepies. And where did that come from? You see, what we see does influence us. And I always heard that in the 1980s or 90s, 90s I guess it is, with the World of Warcraft and all these things like that, that it's really desensitized young people so that they don't find it, they think it's such a big deal to go out and beat the shit out of somebody. a group of people going out and just basically cutting somebody up and leaving them in the park to die. They don't see what's wrong with that. But here in this video game, it's basically saying that rape is okay. And then, you see it in society now. All these incidents where, now that we have smartphones, you hear of people, getting some girls so intoxicated, and then they're videotaping all of it. They're inserting their fingers inside her vagina, yeah, and taking pictures of that, videotaping that, and tweeting each other, taking the pictures and sending them out to a whole group of people. Yeah, and having her trying to do oral sex on guys even though she's passed out. It's a 15-year-old girl. It's happened in America. Really made the news. You probably know what I'm talking about. And they think it's nothing. They don't think anything of it at all. Yeah, and this is rape. And who was it that said something? Was it that CeeLo Green, that singer, who said something like, what he was taken to court by some girl? He gave her some ecstasy, and when she was unwilling to do anything, when she was, she couldn't consent, he took advantage of her, and he tweeted that he said when the girl, how did he say this again? When the girl accepts the drug or whatever, it's showing that she's consenting. What kind of logic is that? That's male chauvinism. Yeah, and of course he really took hell from that, and I don't know how that's going to affect his career. But I got a bad feeling when I saw this guy on TV, when I saw that his whole band is made up of women, which is fine. I think that's nice. But when these women are dressed as sex objects, and he's standing out there in a pimp suit from the 1970s, to me that says, hey, he sees women as sex objects. I don't think he values these girls for their musician skills. And for them to buy into this, the girls I think they're contributing too, because they're saying, yeah, I'll dress like a slut as long as I can make, $10,000 a night. That's causing guys to look at them and continue to think that, yeah, girls are just nothing but, what do you call that? Sperm receptacles. I remember some comedian said that. I thought that was a really good way to say that. And that's all contributing. See, how you communicate really affects the world, and it's going to come back to you. Look, we have this natural law called wawokia. It's generosity. Whatever you communicate is going to return to you 4 times as strong. So if you're dressing like a slut, that is sending a message, and that's going to come back to you. Yeah, and so it is. Things are, people are really desensitized today, and I think a lot of it has to do with these video games. I used to think it was because of the movies, and I think in the beginning it was what you saw in the movies. I think it was, but when video games are something where you can have in your home and play it anytime you want, and the graphics today are so high-tech and 3D, that, when you see these prostitutes, having sex with these guys in this video game, and it looks really authentic, and this is all saying that this is all women are good for. And when in this program that I saw, it was on the BBC. For those of you in England, you probably know the program. This interviewer interviewed some girls who were gamers. They showed one girl who was gaming since she was 6 years old, and she was like in her early 20s. And she said always put up with that. The sexual or sexist comments from gamers who are guys. He's rarely had an intelligent conversation because in a lot of these games you have a headset and you're talking with people who are also playing the game. You don't even know each other, but when somehow they find out you're a girl, all of a sudden they start saying, if prove it you're really a girl, take your clothes off, prove it you're really a girl, send me a picture of your vagina. They don't say vagina. I just don't like the words they use. I'm not going to say them. Yeah, and it's and then you have, of course, the common one, pornography, where now it's you can access anything for free online. Yeah, you can access. There's even sites that are not even classified as pornography, but they are pornographic. Yeah, and it's all the stuff is free that you see on there, and it's just it's focusing on seeing women as only sex objects, women to be used and misused and abused, and nothing more. And then songs talk about this. And as those of you in America with this song from, was it last year? Shoot, I forgot his name. His last name is Thick. I can't remember his first name. But the video shows, women who are topless and string bikinis and with a blurred rectangle over their boobs every time they show their boobs. And, and the people are saying this is okay. In my book, it's not. But people say, yeah, but in today's standards, it is. But today's standards are fucked, in my opinion. Today's standards are not even standards. Yeah? So, and then, of course, with Miley Cyrus doing her nonsense at the Music Video Awards last year, I thought that was incredibly stupid. I didn't think that was cool at all. I just thought, well, this girl is she's doing it for the money. As long as it brings her sales, she don't care. So she's doing it for the money. What do you call people who do that? That's called prostitution. So, when you have the social media that makes it possible for anybody to say anything they want and to show any pictures that they want and show it to as many people as they want, that without emotional development is going to corrupt the world beyond measure. I see that's the key expression there. Emotional development. In a dualistic world, there is no emotional development because you're stuck in the emotion. So where does this begin for guys when they have a hatred for women? How does that develop? Where does that develop? When they have a hatred for women. I wonder about that. I know it has to do with the duality. I know it has to do with the with the Bible that comes from that dualistic world and such like that. But I think it goes even beyond that. I think when you have this what is this called, this Oedipus thing, where little boys are in love with their mothers, basically. And then when they see their mothers showing love for their fathers, they get jealous. I think that might be a part of it. Yeah? But where's the duality in that? I think there's still something more to it. As I look at Lakota star knowledge concepts and what it says regarding parenting, and when it comes to children, you take the time to find out what the child is like, for one thing. And for one thing, I should explain something first of all to begin with. Anciently, we had a familial system called a tioshpae. And I'll use myself as an example to explain what that is. My mother and her sisters are all my mothers, and all their partners are my fathers. They're all equally important. The children from all these marriages are my brothers and sisters. Okay, now my mother's brother, that's my uncle. All of them are my uncles. My mother's brothers, they're my uncles. Their wives are my aunties, and the children from those marriages are my cousins. Okay? Now let's go to my father's side. My father and his brothers are my other fathers. The wives of these men are my other mothers. All my mothers and fathers from both sides of the family are equally important. And the children from all of them are my brothers and sisters. Okay? Now my father's sister is my auntie. I should say my father's sisters are my aunties, and the husbands are my uncles, and the children from these marriages are my cousins. This is what we got from the Buffalo people, because it works. When a parent dies, it is a loss, but there's no orphans, because there's a bunch of mothers and fathers that are raising these children. The community is raising the children. Now, they observe the children and find out where their talents seem to be heading. And whatever it is, there's a society that focuses on that kind of talent. This is both true for boys and girls. There's men's societies and there's women's societies, and each society has a certain focus. So when you recognize where the child is heading, that's what you stay on. But even before that, you find out, what is this child? Because physically it might be a girl, but inside it might be a boy. This is not a lesbian. Yeah? Same thing for guys. It might be physically a boy, but inside it's a girl. This is not a gay guy. This is something different. Okay? So when they watch them and they see where the tendencies are going, that's when they know where to send the child, which group to send it to, which society to send that child to during the day. And that's where they're going to be receiving their instruction. The goal is for them to develop so that they're emotionally developed and mentally developed and spiritually developed and physically developed. These are the 4 parts to self, as I said before. So sometimes among these girls, you will see a guy there. And he's going to be accepted as a girl, because his reality begins within, and for him, he's got the mind of a girl. So they're going to let him dress like a girl, and that's accepted. There's nothing wrong with it, because reality begins within. Yeah, so it's not, and they don't poke fun of him or tease him or anything. They know that his mind is a girl, so that's where he is. Same thing with girls whose minds are male. They're accepted as men. Yeah? In our Lakota society, we had several women warrior societies. Yeah? See, all this is based on a really old Lakota star knowledge story that says that it talks about the male cycle and a female cycle, and that neither one is more important than the other, and the two can complement each other. So this is why we're neither matriarchal or patriarchal. We're something different. In our society, women, of course are different because their bodies are different, but they're not seen as less than, nor are they seen as more than. Okay? They're two different cycles. They're different, but neither one is more important than the other. That's how it was. So the children grow up in a society where they're allowed to learn, what they are based on what's inside of them, where their reality begins. You end up with very emotionally developed children. And they have a lot of mothers and fathers watching over them as well. Add that to the picture. So I don't really see where the Oedipus complex can develop in a Lakota star knowledge structured family, because there's too many factors involved. Yeah, there's too many moms, which is a good thing. Yeah, it's a healthy thing. So in this system, the boys are, as they come to puberty, they're taught about their bodies. So are the girls. Yeah, and of course when they hear when they hear wait a second, I got a quick message here. I'm channeling a soul from the about 10,000 years ago. Hang on here. Hey. Gotcha. No, somebody sent me a message and I had to look at it real quick here. Because sometimes I make mistakes, like unmute, like I forget to unmute myself, and somebody will send me a message and say, "David, we can't hear you." So I had to check that right away. Okay. In the ancient Lakota society, the boys and the girls, but before they reach puberty, they're taught about their bodies. They're taught about each other's bodies, and that what happens. They see when a child is born, they learn about that process, hands-on. Well, I shouldn't say hands-on, but they're there. Yeah, when the child is brought out to the community to be welcomed to the community, they learn, where did that come from? How did that happen? So they're learning about this. And this is not a dualistic world, so they're not thinking like we do today. Yeah, they have a community thinking concept, and so they learn about these things, and they learn that they're capable of doing these things. So they learn these are sacred things, but they're also, this is something to be enjoyed too. It's not just to have kids alone, but we're taught about personal responsibility. We're taught about boundaries. And most importantly of all, we're taught to respect our bodies. Because that way we can respect other bodies. It always begins within. You respect yourself first. And so with that kind of mindset and, behind the teachings in parenting, the boys and girls find it no problem. By the time they're 15 years old, they're pretty much emotionally developed. And some of the things they learn is that if they're going to have children, to have no more than 3. And that each child should be spaced at least 2 years apart from each other. So that gives the wife strength. And that she has things to do. And fathers have to take active roles too. Yeah. So in this process, in this whole system, is really not an opportunity for an Oedipus complex to develop. And these children are really emotionally developed. Yeah. So when they see the other gender, as they become teenagers, yes, they're going to get attracted, but they learned how to be responsible to themselves first, so they can be responsible to their mates. It goes back and forth. This guy's really cute, but can he provide for the family? This woman is really pretty, but can she do this and that? And neither one is belittling the other. The whole idea is, can this person, really be a good parent? And the person has to ask themselves that first, though. Can I be a good one? I will show to him that I'm good at what I do. I will show to her that I am good at what I do. So physical attraction is important, but it's only a starting point. They have to go into the relationship itself. They have to find out what's the substance of this person. What kind of person are they? They don't just marry each other because of looks alone. So the fact that both genders are taking the time to find out how good that other person is, their potential partner, that shows you they don't see each other as sex objects. Yeah, they're seeing each other as to be in such a way so that the people may live. That is the focus, is the way we lived. Then the churches came and said, you heathens are uncivilized, and your stories contradict the Bible, which means your stories were given to you from the devil. And here our society worked. Yeah, there was no misogyny. I mean, there might have been some people this way because they strayed, but not everybody was this way. Most people were healthy. If there was misogyny, it was in the priest. Yeah. So, when I look at the Lakota ancient society and see how it used to be, I can see where misogyny does not have a chance. I mean, it will raise its head because there will be people who will be oppressive, and they will, get their little Gestapo and oppress their own people. Red Cloud was one of them. Red Cloud visited another Oglala Lakota camp, saw a really pretty woman. He wanted to have sex with her that night. She said no, that she's married to one of the chiefs in that village. So he got his private Gestapo to kill this man, and then Red Cloud went to, quote unquote, comfort this woman, and that's how he got her. And then he threatened this group of people to make him their chief, otherwise they obliterate them. This is how he became chief. You see, Indians were not perfect. We had our assholes too, and this is one of them. To keep their support, he did some good things for them, but overall, he went against his own people. He tried to sell the Black Hills, which is sacred to many tribes. He tried to sell this behind all other tribes back, so that only him and his family would get the money. Washington, D.C. said, nope, you have to, this involves many tribes, not just your family. So you see, the American government was not always deceptive. And Red Cloud tried to deceive his own people, and Washington, D.C. said, nope, we're not going to let you do that. See, so for that little tidbit there is where you racists who say that all white people are bad, the American government only does bad things. If the American government was really, really a bad government, they would have sold the Black Hills to Red Cloud's family. And the fact is, the American government protected us from Red Cloud because he tried to deceive the entire Sioux Nation by selling the Black Hills behind all these other tribes back who have a say in this. You see, it wasn't a perfect world. But overall, it was a lot healthier than what you're seeing today. So I think when we're looking at the problems of today, I think you don't have to go back and live the way our ancestors lived, but that thought process that our ancestors had, that's where our customs came from. So I think if you look at the process and learn from that, you can use that process into making a transition in today's world. So it's not about, getting an Indian name or doing sweat lodge ceremonies or sun dancing. It's not about that at all. That's the wrong way to go. It's about taking that process, that thought process that's behind it, that's under all this, and using that way of thinking in today's world. It's going to drastically change the way the world is going. That's getting to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not in the ceremony. I mean, to fix the root of the problem does not lie in the ceremony or getting an Indian name or growing your hair long. Yeah, it's all about looking at that thought process that existed among our ancestors and applying that same thought process to today's world. That's why this show exists. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. So, when you look at these things, like I said, this really horrendous graphic video game, that this Grand Theft Auto. Oh gosh, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It just, when you see something like that over and over and over, and you see it in real life, it doesn't do anything to you. And for a lot of people, that's going to affect them. And they may not do that, but they will do something. That's not right. You see what I mean? It still influences you. So, what needs to be done? What needs to be done? You're not going to stop that because somebody's going to find a way to bootleg it. Somebody's going to be able to develop a technology to reproduce it again. You have to deal with duality by looking at how it works, identifying all the components in it, and then using those same components to do something different. Taking those same components and using it with the thought process of the ancestors, you could actually make something healthy from this. And that's going to turn a lot of lives around. Because in this way you're treating duality as a problem. And that you can make it work for you by adjusting it in a healthy way. But if you try to wipe it out, that's dualistic too. Yeah? So it's about making it work. And number one, don't call it a bad thing, because that is a dualistic way of communicating.